Hello everyone, this is Angbarian Mapping Bureau streaming, or rather speaking as always, and today I'm planning to showcase some of the RAGL maps picked for Season 6. This all of course depends on whether we'll are able to get enough players to play actual games. But at least there is Barf today with us, so that might cover at least 50% of players needed to play on the maps. And if it's dragging too long, then probably I can join as a second player, because it's of course the best way to end the day, being trampled by Barf in a 1v1. So as you might have already read on the forums, first 4 maps for the Season 6 were picked, and those 4 are Shadowfiend II, as you see currently selected for the game, and Shadowfiend II being a classic map by Kazu. New classic, let's say, moving on from Season 5. And 3 other maps are the picks from map design contest, being Uzala, Beyond Destruction and Shared Responsibility. So if you actually want to look at those maps, then you can follow to the forums, and there should be links in the rulebook for Season 6 regarding all the maps currently picked. So as there are 4, then there are 4 links to all these maps I'm mentioning. Or you can just join in into the lobby and download them one by one, if you want that. Alright, we also have today some Smurf from Germany. Oh, I will give it 5 more minutes, and if no one else joins, then I'll just join Barf with an inaugural game of the stream, just to warm up some muscles in my fingers of my map using left hand. Mouse using, of course. Some occasional games going on today, as we can see. Not exactly a crowded day today, I think. You can of course check the statistics on the OpenRunNet website, which says that there is a bunch of 31 players on the release version currently. which actually took a slight dip from the release date, so maybe there are some issues actually with the release, but hopefully not. And all we see here on this server is our usual suspects for the evening. I think I'll just give it a go.
Battle control initiated.
So I don't even know whether I need to talk about this particular map, because most of you should already know about it. So this map has 5 oil derricks, which at the time of its creation made it somewhat special, because having 5 oil derricks is rather odd around, so most maps had 2 or 4. Well, another exception was, of course, Agenda, which had initially the whopping 6 oil derricks, oh no, even 8 oil derricks, but then reduced to 6. And
construction complete.
well, that's about oil derricks.
Construction options.
Another thing is that it's just quite, well, let's say unremarkable in terms of expansions, because each player has just 2 somewhat simple ones,
Structure captured.
double mine each, which makes it 7 mines per player, which is mostly the rolling standard these days. What makes it quite differently playable is a combination of all the things mentioned, because, for example, 5 oil derricks make it more or less viable to run double ref, for example, to have early aggression, but at the same time the size of the map influences it in a way that if you run double ref, then you get outmaneuvered all around. Just because by the time you run your engineer around by foot with a bunch of rifles, your opponent might already have built a moving vehicle like that, and just be quicker on grabbing all the oils, especially if he's lucky to avoid all the problems around.
Reconstruction options. Building. Construction complete.
Well, the size of the map itself makes it. Oops. No, I don't want to grab that, sorry.
Unit lost.
Ah, right. That wasn't good.
Training. Unit ready.
Yeah, so the size of this map doesn't look viable for something extreme like grenadiers to show up, for example.
Unit ready. Unit ready.
Just because by the time your grenadiers move from here to here, then to here,
Unit ready.
your opponent is more than ready
Ready.
to follow with all kinds of different stuff.
Unit ready. Construction complete. Unit ready. Unit ready.
And I think this game going bad for me
Our base is under attack.
because losing an MCV, especially an early MCV, just to a
Unit
single
ready.
white tank, doesn't exactly
Ready.
count as a
Ready.
good encounter, especially if you are playing against the current RAGL champion.
Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready.
Oh, going to speak about the map.
Unit ready. Unit
This
ready.
map also has
Unit ready.
quite an interesting layout in general,
Unit ready.
with all the needed touches around. For example, both of these expansions have an opening
Unit ready.
for an ore truck to go in, or well, pretty much anything else.
Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Building. Primary building selected. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Construction unit ready. 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 Unit construction complete. Prepare. Cannot deploy here. Cannot deploy here. Unit ready. Unit ready.
And as you can see,
Ready.
when I've lost my MCV, my first MCV here,
Unit ready.
I got into pretty much big trouble with keeping up with expansions and map control.
Unit
So now I'm
construction unit complete.
trying to still grab
Unit ready.
stuff I should grab around.
Unit ready. Unit ready. Building. Building. Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Unit ready. Position ready. Unit ready.
But the problem is I'm
Unit lost. Unit
pretty
ready.
much lacking
Ready.
a lot
Ready.
regarding
Ready. Under attack.
my general army.
Construction unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit lost.
Ah, and now I'm at like 0 harvesters.
Construction unit ready. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Construction lost. Cancel. Construction ready. Building. Building. Building.
Ready and waiting. Very well. Reporting. Agreed. Awaiting acknowledged. Of course. Affirmative.
Construction complete.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. At once.
But at least I'm still rowing, I think.
Construction complete.
Yeah, okay.
Cannot unit construction
Just
complete.
need
Repair.
to
Reporting as you wish.
restore my ore tracks count.
Construction complete.
Ready and of course. Reporting at once. Waiting acknowledged. Reporting.
Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged.
Unit lost. Ready.
And also I forgot about production, but given that I don't have any
Unit ready. Unit lost. Ready.
usable money anyway,
Lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Ready. Lost. Unit lost. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit lost. Ready. Lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Ready. Unit lost. Unit ready. Unit lost. Ready. Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Of course. Awaiting for
Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit construction complete. Unit ready. Lost. Unit lost. Cannot deploy. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit lost. Ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit lost. Ready. Unit lost. Ready. Lost. Unit lost. Ready. Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit lost. Ready. Unit lost. Unit ready. Lost. Unit lost. Unit ready. Lost. Construction complete. Ready. Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit ready.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
alright.
Construction complete. Repair. Unit ready.
At least I've managed to inflict some damage.
New construction unit ready. Building.
So I'm Russia, so
Insufficient.
I think I might try to do something
Construction ready. Unit ready.
going on.
Construction complete. Unit ready. Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready.
And that's a lot of
Unit ready.
mines.
Unit ready. Unit ready. Construction complete. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Lost. Building. Unit ready. Cancel. Construction complete. Lost. Building. Unit ready. Building.
Comrade. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting.
Unit ready.
Waiting order. Agreed. Comrade.
Unit lost. Unit ready. Lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost.
As you wish. Waiting.
Unit lost. Unit ready. Lost. Unit lost.
At once.
Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Very well.
Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost.
Affirmative.
Unit lost. Unit lost.
Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Ready and of course.
Primary building selected.
Yes, sir.
Our base is under attack. Complete. Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Cancel. Construction complete.
Reporting.
Unit ready.
Vehicle report. Acknowledged.
Unit lost. Construction complete. Construction complete.
Alright, that's
Primary
two.
building
Forgetting stuff.
training. Unit ready. Unit ready.
Interestingly enough,
Ready. Unit ready. Unit ready.
I'm
Reporting.
still good regarding.
Unit ready.
Ah, gotcha.
Acknowledged. Report.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost. Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Unit building.
Ready and waiting.
Construction unit ready. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready.
Ready and waiting.
Unit ready.
Waiting orders. Acknowledged.
Unit construction complete. Unit ready. Unit
Yeah.
ready.
Come and get me.
Reporting at once. Waiting affirmative.
Cancel. Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Construction unit ready.
Yeah.
Preparing.
Ready and waiting.
Yeah. Okay.
Insufficient funds. Unit ready.
Sound agreed.
Building. Unit ready. Unit ready. Unit ready.
Waiting order.
Let's do some crashes.
Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit ready. Unit ready.
Acknowledge.
Unit lost.
Report at
Insufficient
once.
funds. Unit lost.
Waiting affirmative. Report affirmative.
Unit ready. Unit ready. Lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit ready. Lost. Unit ready. Unit lost. Unit lost.
That was
Waiting orders.
worse than I would have expected, of course. But given the story of this game, I don't think I will survive any longer, so
Unit lost. Unit ready.
that should probably be GG up for now.
Ready and waiting. Of course.
Unit
Waiting
lost.
orders.
Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit ready. Lost. Unit lost. Mission failed.
So of course the loss of early MCV was a major blow, but then I think I did a good job at trying to grab more money than my opponent had. Um, so that should be this point. Just because I've lost a lot of ore trucks in the process made me less favorable an opponent here.
Battle control terminated.
Right, so that was Shadowfiend for you. If you want to look at some other replays on this map, then you can just download the RAGL Season 5 and see a lot of those. Wow, this setup doesn't really look very beautiful. So that brings us to Uzala, or I don't know what the exact emphasis on the name is, because I do remember that it's some kind of a native guy in Siberia, a trapper that had the name Uzala, and that's a kind of tribute map by Buck about that guy. So speaking about the map, it had quite a story of developing, having something like 8 revisions, and it changed drastically because frankly speaking the first revision wasn't that playable as the current one, but the current one is quite fine regarding the playability of the map. Yeah, Widow, if you're listening, but I suppose you are not, then you can You can say anything you want about RAGL and its improvement. Of course. J2K, J2K for you, pocket money. I don't know about that today, because today I just wanted to stream 4 of the maps picked for Season 6. And as you can guess, pocket money doesn't yet qualify as a RAGL map, or let's say as a RAGL capable map. So that was Shadowfiend for you, and Uzala, what else? Shared Responsibility and Beyond Destruction are all picked for Season 6 already. Okay, about the question that Vito has. Don't have that currently. For example, what? No, everything should be good. Okay, we have a bunch of some strange players. Wait,
Battle control
damn it.
initialized.
That was rude.
Battle control terminated.
Also, I wanted to say that the guy need to change his color, but it was void anyway. Also, why is every server pre-set up with some strange options? Okay, so Widow. Oh wow, that's aberrant. If that's the real aberrant we're seeing. The famous aberrants about servers holder. don't know, reading through the whole chat by video, who's posting messages like parts of the sentence in a separate lines. I don't find it exactly easy to follow. Okay, I think we might have a game.
Battle control initialized.
If that's at least an aberrant, then we might have a nice game, but that depends on actual lag we're having. Okay, so instead of being involved in some chat experience, probably I'll try to speak something about the map itself, especially that it's so laggy. Okay, so about this map, then you have a pretty much standard 2+1 spawning ore patches. Then a minor middle expansion with double mines, and then single mines somewhat in the corner, which makes it kinda single expansion, but not exactly so, just because it's so spread in different directions and also having those fences. And I also suggest Widow. Okay, so back to the map itself. Map also has 4 oil derricks, which are also more or less linear, because this one is quite alone, quite away to be grabbed by a closer player, but still close due to these fences able to be driven over. What makes this particular map somewhat interesting What makes this map particularly interesting, maybe, is that those double mines are quite open to the middle, which actually makes it a lot more base push worthy. Okay. Uh, Back to what I'm saying again. So, you of course remember that pretty much everyone disliked River of Gold just because it was very base push material. And I guess this map might do something similar to that, but in a different fashion. Because if you see that square I'm selecting here, you'll see that pretty much any position between two double mine patches can be grabbed by a single MCV. And probably that's what we are going to see right now, is that Barf is trying to go offensive and grab Aberrat's double ore patch, double mine ore patch. Thing is, Aberrat doesn't really have much to go against it, which is strange considering that he has somewhat even. But then now Barf gets much better crashes and much better engagement here in general. And now that MCV will surely go down. Well, maybe it's lucky enough to have a road nearby, but still, 1 second more. And especially if Parf actually targets it, but yeah. Well, that was base push and a half on this map. And I'm sure we'll see more of it, of course. But why not, actually? Because if we just have a single kind of map where you only run a single strategy and like 10 of those maps, and it doesn't really feel any interesting for players, because you just pick one map out of 10 and all of them are the same. So instead, I think it's quite feasible to pick around different kinds of maps, even if those maps promote a particular style of play. For example, like River of Gold did, or some small maps. Well, even Keep of the Grass can be considered somewhat one-dimensional map, but it's still interesting in a way that it allows players to just pick particular strategies against the opponents that they will think will be able to play a good game on a standard map. So that's just just another angle, an approach of mind games and such. And if we allow, as you know, in a group stage, every player, when he plays against his opponent in a best of two, one of the maps is picked by one player and the other map is picked by the other. So at least half of your games you're playing in a group stage, you can pick whatever you want. Well, not exactly as I said here, exactly the half of the games you are picking the map that you want, but at least half of the maps you will be playing will be good for you and interesting for you, because obviously your opponent might pick maps that you're good at also. So picking some different maps that are out of the box, not standard, is also can be considered somewhat a strategy or a tactic against your opponent. If you know that your opponent sucks at some particular map, you can just pick that one. And I don't know, should we allow that player to play? Well, maybe. Why not? Especially if it's just speaking about maps. Well, saying all that, saying all that, this is one of the reasons me in particular was interested in adding shared responsibility.
Battle control initialized.
Because shared responsibility is quite different from other maps, in a way that it has very close spawns, basically in a vicinity of each other's base radius, and you actually can shoot at your opponent's ore patch, spawn or patch even, with base defenses placed from your spawn MCV. At the same time, there is a whole different map all around. Oh, I think I will just speak about it later when we play that map. And instead, I will concentrate myself on this one. Because we are playing Beyond Destruction, made by NA, the player here. And the first impression of this map is like this is basically an extended version of Warwind. You can even call it Warwind 2.0 because it has very similar spawn placement like Warwind did. It also has a middle point of attention, where Warwind had two oil derricks. It also has two oil derricks, but it also has a power plant. More about it later. Then it has differences from Warwind is that it's at first it's bigger, especially vertically, I think. And also it has different layout of ore mines on the top and bottom edges of the map. Because top one has two double ore mines, and the bottom has half gem mine and two small ore patches in the corners. And then there is a middle, which is a very strange layout of gem mines, confined to just 6 cells worth of approach for North Truck. And like you can see, it doesn't grow more, and it's only approachable through rough terrain debris, which slows our trucks even more so. In the end, I think these two gem mines can be considered something even less than a single gem mine, or maybe close to a single gem mine. But then again, there is an advanced power plant in the middle, which kind of makes this map peculiar, and some other maps by NA that also include a power plant or several power plants. Because if you grab that power plant early, then you're able to tech faster, you're able to eco up faster. Also, the power plant can be used as a base provider when you place your MCV somewhere here or here. Then you can, when you grabbed it, then you can place defenses around it. So you basically have more space for defenses initially. Okay, so back to the game at hand. So far we see that both players are ignoring the power plant in the middle, which is strange, especially for, well, it's Anyway, strange play by this player, Kokolina, placing a lot of power plants instead of capturing one. But then it's quite an aggressive way to expand around, because this was a nice touch, placing an MCV on your opponent's ore field and then effectively blocking Dragonov's way all the way to the top. So now Kokolina just needs to press more on the bottom and deny, or at least battle the gem mine in the middle. Okay, game again. So Dragonov was a nice player, season 5, and actually dealt a very hurting loss for me, because he also was in minions, and I kinda expected to win 2 games from him, but then got a stupid loss in one of them. Okay, and seems not particularly good for Dragonov here. It also seems very strange for Kokolina regarding expansions and regarding the picking of gem mines around. At least Dragonov managed to fend off this attack on the right and still have some kind of army on the left. So that reverted to the initial state, and I don't think Dragonov should be anywhere near that without V2s. Instead, he can probably pick an MCV instead by one of his yaks, and also he has 2 yaks now. But I think he just doesn't take any look at the top right corner of the map. So what are Dragonov's options right now? And that's an interesting way to do it. Also viable, of course, but I don't think exactly viable, especially that there is only a single ore mine and it's already cleaned up. And no base to put a refinery here even. So only some kind of proxy base possible here, but nothing more than that. Okay, so at least Dragunov managed to get a standoff in the middle. Denying Kokolina somewhat an expansion in the middle and some of Chems. But he's still neglecting his right side. Dragunov, I mean. And I think now with the second infantry force, Kokolina will be able to clean up the whole tech of Dragunov by destroying service depot and now radar dome. Yeah, and that's GG just because Dragunov doesn't have any more money. Because he probably needed to grab this one. Or probably be more active at the top. But nevertheless, that was one peculiar game. This map.
Battle control.
Which leaves us with a fourth map called Shared Responsibility, and probably after that we can repeat something if you'd want, or I don't know, just we'll see when we get there. So again, speaking about out-of-the-box maps, Beyond Destruction provides the advanced power plant in the middle that I was talking about earlier, that just throws some unexpected, unusual, non-standard build orders into the bunch. Like if you are able to grab advanced power plant early and defend it, then you can, for example, forgo second and then third power plants. Instead, have War Factory 8 seconds earlier, and then I don't know, even getting Radar Dome earlier, but that's probably too risky. So instead, you can get some faster refineries, barracks, whatever you want. And then a second MCV that you put into the middle of the map and gain a decent map control just for that. So most of the game revolves around that power plant, even though it doesn't actually provide too much value per se, but and those gem mines don't give you any substantial profit from it, but still some profit to make a middle base viable for separate expansion. And of course that middle placement is quite vulnerable to be attacked from different sides. And we might have an interesting matchup here. Both players having their it's a picture. Both players having the taste of RAGL already, so they should know what they're doing.
Battle control initialized.
So, back to describing this map. You can see that there are. Well, if you get that this MCV moved 2 cells, I think, to the right. Well, their intersection point of build radius is exactly in the middle of this cliff, and you can see that turrets and Tesla coils can still reach just about half or something of the ore patch in the middle. But what makes it also interesting that there are 2 points of confrontation. So if you attack your opponent's ore patch, then your opponent can also attack your patch on the other side, so you need to move your armies, and you can't protect both sides at the same time, or you will just be stretched out in the middle where there are not a lot of resources. But instead, if you check the rest of the map, you have a pretty big expansion in the corner, double mine one, and then you have triple mines spread out around the other corner of the map, which also has 2 oil derricks and a hospital in each corner. So if you're expanding into that, okay, well, I'm at it. There was a huge attempt by Jur and Grenadiers, and I think it somewhat succeeded, almost. The problem is that Dragunov doesn't have any Grenadiers. I mean any barracks, but he managed to get all the opponent's forces by several docks, and that means that they are somewhat even in terms of destroyed count, in terms of harvesters also. But Dragunov lost some time defending, so he is late with his war factory, unfortunately. So, all in all, this map has the interesting feel that most of your confrontation will be held in the middle, or like some static defense lines along this line, and then you just expand outwards. And if the defense goes okay for both players in the middle, then it just goes down to who expands better around the map. Yeah, and I think Dragunov's strategy of not building barracks failed on this map. Probably it's not for this map anyway. just because the close MCV to MCV distance. Yeah, that's a valid question. Like starting to speak, no, and even GG can't count like the end of the game in some uh, heated games. I think we'll have another one just because of an unusual development. And you know what? We actually managed to play 4 games in an hour. All the more reason to play. So, like I said, this map is more about macro actually than it's about micro. Well, at least I think it is. Just because you need to distract your opponent long enough to be able to expand around the map, and then strike on several outside points of the map. Something like that for general strategy. One of other peculiar picks on this map was placing some static defenses on the ridge of your opponent, on the cliff of your opponent, just because it has a very long cliff that locks 2 ore patches. Yeah, that's funny. Because Buck is one of the newer players in open array and also in RAGL. And he's from France, and Cocolina has a French IP, which is not showing right now, but it was before. Well, in previous game we didn't even see any other players even trying to grab their old Dereks in the corners. And I hope that was not that Kane person again. Oh god, I think he is. About the tactical, well, at one glance, yes, but you still can pick the most safer route to your corner, or you can. Yeah, tactical will be leaving soon. And I've missed that he actually joined because that was almost obvious that that was the same person that had nickname Kane in the previous game. Never mind. So, right, there is also another Oderic in the corner. Bottom left, maybe. But then, why do you actually go to that route? If you go a safer route, then second expansion can actually go this way. And if you go upwards, then second expansion can also harass your opponent's corner as well. It's of course long distance round, and some first minutes of the game will definitely revolve around the middle. But I still don't agree that it will play the same. It will play similar, of course, but some early quirks on this map might be possible. Like, for example, there is a question whether you want or not to go something crazy like double engineers in the corners, or you might feint an attack from one angle and then attack with grenadiers from others, depending on your opponent's opening on this map. Of course, mostly it's double ref, just because you won't sustain any possible defense against a double ref with a single ref. But then also this map makes it viable to run a triple ref, builds the famous choose box build, just because the closer spawn line. And if your opponent on double ref is concerned with oil derricks, then you can just probably overpower him with a blunt rifles attack, even neglecting a pillbox or two. Yeah, it's a valid question, but I think it's because his ore refinery replacement was not that good initially, especially this one, and of course this one. And then he just didn't have enough ore trucks later. Then there is no third refinery still. Yeah, well, actually Spetsnaz is probably too behind in this game just to sustain any kind of decent damage for a direct approach by Dragunov. Spetsnaz did manage to grab oil derricks in the corner and try to grab other ones around, and Dragunov instead just neglected all the capturables on the map, concentrating on his brute force middle map attack instead, which actually was profitable and the right choice in this game. Also, hello VP, if you're still with us. And as you can see by this easy earnings graph, Spetsnaz was done like 3.5 minutes ago. Oh, not ago, but 3.5 minutes into the game. So that's just a bit dragging into the game further. Yeah, and currently we just wait for Spetsnaz to accept his defeat. Hello. Seeing this map and looking at this map, I see that probably one small detail needs a change. Exactly this ore patch. Because here ore mine is closer to the reach opening, and here ore mine is closer to the middle of the cliff, not to that side. And probably this ore mine also needs to be somewhere here, so lower and more to the left. Same as the ore around it, so that it's easier grabbable from the spawn, from the MCV. Well, at least Spetsnaz doesn't have an option to... Oh, he does have. I stand corrected. He does have an option to move his MCV to this lake, build a shipyard, and then build a transport and move MCV onto the transport. Though he won't get very far.
Battle control terminated.
Right, so let's have something else for the stream. How about maps that I'm not sure about? Like, for example, this one I don't have. Okay. That means I need to add it to the folder and then restart the client. And about the comparison of shared responsibility to Mystic Oasis. These maps might look similar, but then they're also different in a way. For example, the openings, of course, where shared responsibility has a long cliff, the Mystic Oasis just a completely open map, and then a lot more gem mines around. make it playable differently and in a different way. And also, what I can point out as the biggest difference between these maps is that on Mystic Oasis, it's actually not viable to, not feasible and not possible to attack
control
on the middle and have middle ground attacks, even though the spawn's distance is close to the same like on shared responsibility. And that is because there is no point to attack forward, because on that map, just because those cliffs are there, they create a confined space where the ore patch is vulnerable. But it's not so on this map, because the ore patch is in complete open, and the distance to that ore patch for defending player is much shorter also, and is probably more defendable. Also worth noting such differences as, for example, these oil derricks present a valuable vision on the map, which on some maps it also is a very important source. Well, not source, a very important point of oil derricks. Not only them providing money, but and actually, I think Barf is losing. And it's second time in a week I see Barf losing to Grenadiers. Yeah, but we'll see. Okay. Let's hope Barf had enough. He probably might still have been on par with Who Cares, even though he lost a lot, but he's just 30 seconds behind Who Cares on War Factory. The problem is he needs to properly defend from that wave of infantry here. But I think now he has enough infantry to do exactly that. And the difference is also he has 2 oil derricks now, so he might get into the lead with his ore and oil money. Yeah, I think in the end, Who Cares was just to forward and expandable with those grenadiers and rifles, so allowed Barf to defend, but still Who Cares is 30 seconds faster than Barf. Shouldn't forget that. So what I wanted to say, yeah, that might be true, that expansion options are a bit better or a bit more broad on this map than a shared responsibility, just because you can go both sides and backwards. But that just makes this map and that map different in this regard. If the map is not more accessible, it doesn't mean that map is better or worse. It just means that or is more accessible, especially that you don't have any cliffs or obstacles on the map. Of course, obstacles should be used wisely on maps and not create chokes and stuff, anything like that. But I don't think that's a problem of shared responsibility either. About open maps, maybe, and that was alright. At MCV, Barf, God of Ranger, the Ranger General. So I don't know. This debate can actually go forever in any of the directions. I'll just say that those maps, Shared Responsibility and Mystic Others, are just different. They just might look the same regarding the starting spawns, but they are different and they provide different options. And going back into the game, we are seeing Barf with a nice maneuver to take wait. Actually, both trying to base push their opponents. And as Hookers said earlier, I think in Discord or maybe on forums, that he is trying to go Omnom style all around, and he is doing something exactly like that with his 3 MCVs already and base pushing his opponent. Yeah, that also might be a valid point, Whippy. At least it doesn't have a lot of trees. That is what we can agree about. So with that base push all around, Barf interestingly decided not to dive into Hooker's base and instead concentrate on defending against Hooker's base push onto his main. And he probably, well, not probably, but surely succeeded at that, destroying a Conyard and then fully destroying the whole base of Hookers. And now I think Karos might have some problems with with money, because he's chosen 5-4 trucks and he neglected this expansion, instead concentrating on the base push. Let's analyze this, it's a mystery. Sad to hear that, Violent Red. How about this? Does it feel uh, more full to you? Yeah, well, in this game, Bar showed that RAGL champion title does mean something, because he successfully defended from an all the way aggressive Grenadiers and refinery attack that destroyed a lot of base on his side, but he survived long enough to scale and completely different battle against hookers on this map. Yeah, and hookers accept defeat. Probably not. Right, so... Well, at least I've achieved what I planned for the stream today. I've showed you 4 maps that are going to be the pick for the Season 6 in RAGL. Hopefully we will decide on most of the other maps by the end of the week. And somewhere on the weekend, maybe on Sunday or maybe next Monday, I will showcase the rest of the maps, just so that you get notified about it on as many sources as possible. Of course, you will be able to get all the links to the maps, and at the end of registration periods, the map pack will be composed in an archive and sent to players, of course, and be able to download it from some sources like forums and Discord. So I think that's all for today's stream. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time with mapping streams. And of course, would like you to register for RAGL this season, because it of course should be quite exciting, especially with that one-day qualifying tournament. So see you next time, and bye bye.